Hey guys, welcome to Lesson 6, Part 1. You want to go ahead and open up Adobe Illustrator from your Xilinx. And inside the ME2 folder, I'm at home so I can't show you, but inside the ME2 folder, you're going to want to go to Graphic Design, go through the V drive, go to Graphic Design and Illustrator Lessons. And from there, you're going to be able to go to Lesson 6. So for me, I'll go through here to show you. Inside Lesson 6 folder, you should have three options. The start, the practice, and the end. Go ahead and open up all three of them so that you can see what they look like. Okay, so first up is the practice. And we took a look at this already a little bit earlier. There's 6 artboards here. And this is practice for the pen tool. So if you've already done this, then you got a good hang of it. I'm going to ask you to kind of go through it again, so I can show you a couple things that we go through. First thing I want you to do is to save this in your own name. So go to File, Save As, and you can call it like Pen Practice and your last name. Do not save it in the general area. Go make sure you go into the ME2 folder and save it there under your student folder in your personal folder. I'm going to save it just on my desktop because I'm at home and not at school. Okay. First thing we want to do when we get started is to go ahead and make sure so that we're all of our illustrators look exactly the same. Go to Window, Workspace, Essentials, and then we want to come down here to Reset Essentials. It'll just set all the tools and everything exactly the same so that as I follow along and you follow along, everything looks good. Okay, so today we're going to be talking all about the pen tool. The pen tool is a little tricky to get used to. It's hard at first to kind of get comfortable with it. Sometimes you can use a digital tablet called like a Wacom tablet and use a pen to draw on a screen. So people kind of go back and forth between the pen tool and the digital tablet. For this one, let's start with the practice right now, and I just want you to go to, well, first, this is what we're going to end up looking like. So we're going to create this coffee cup with a logo, the little coffee bean, and the spoon, and so this is our end result. In a minute, we're going to switch over here and try some of our pen practice on this. Let's go to the practice right now. You've just saved it. Let's go ahead and go to View and Fit Artboard and Window. It just centers everything and zooms in a little bit more. We're going to start with number 1. To begin, let's make sure we go up here to our fill, click it, let's do no fill. We do want a black stroke and we want 1 point stroke, which is fine. So make sure that that's selected. We want to turn off our smart guides just so that they're not in our way to begin with. So just go up to view and then go down to smart guides and click that off. We can always turn them back on later. Alright, so we're zoomed in here. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. This is our work area and it's labeled for us to go ahead and get started. Go and click on the pen tool. If you hover over it, it's the third one down on the left hand side. You can find it. Click on pen and we're going to start clicking by number. Alright, we're going to click on number 1 and then we're going to follow along this line. This line right here is a new path, and it follows right from the anchor points that you're clicking. Good job, just keep going. There you go. And once you do this, it doesn't have a fill to it, it's an open shape. We can go to select and deselect, and it'll go ahead and click off of the pen tool from where we are here. So let's move over to our second one. The second artboard, which I'm just going to switch it right like that. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing on number 2 and we're going to practice. Before we go on to this, guys, let's go back really quickly to the first artboard and let's look at a couple things here. I'm going to do select, deselect to get that off. Okay, so we went along and we added this. Something I want to show you, if you click V on your keyboard to move to the selection tool, if you click on what you drew, notice that it all moves together as 1 point. And that is because sorry, I'm having trouble getting mine to move now back to its original spot. All right, it all moves together as you drew it. If you were to switch to the direct selection tool right here, you would be able to select individual anchor points, and you could manipulate those anchor points. So if I clicked on the top, I can make it taller. If I was to click in the middle, you see the little widgets. I could curve it if I wanted to, or curve back down to a point. So the direct select is going to allow you to manipulate it. In that sense, the selection tool will move it together as a whole. So if I go back to the selection tool and I click it, I can move this whole thing again together as a whole. Okay, so try playing around with that for a few minutes. I'm just going to Control Z, undo it until I get it back to its normal state. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to our second one. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn on Smart Guides again. So go to View and Smart Guides, and we're going to come down here to this one. So we're going to select our pen tool, and we're going to click. Now, when you have your Smart Guides on, you'll notice that it kind of snaps to the area that you want it to be. So you'll see it aligning everything. But if we were to turn Smart Guides off again, the only way that you could get it to kind of snap to it without Smart Guides being turned on is if you were to hold down the Shift key. So let's get to 4. Let's stop here and go to View and turn Smart Guides off again. Okay. Now notice that there's no lines that pop up, nothing that shows you where you're going. But if I was to hold down the Shift key, it keeps it at a 45-degree angle. Do you see that? So that could be useful if you didn't want Smart Guides on, but you wanted to keep something to like a distinct angle. I'm going to go ahead and take it off the Shift key so I can click where I want it to go. And back down again. Good. I'm going to go ahead and go to Select and Deselect and View and turn the Smart Guides back on. All right, now that I have that one done, let's go ahead and save this file. File and Save. All right, let's go ahead and just practice a little bit with curves. So let's select number 3 from the artboard. And we're going to come over here. I'm going to do Select, Deselect to deselect that pen. And we can play over here on the side or play up here for a minute. We're just going to practice. So to do a curve, if you click on the start and you hold down your mouse as you get up to about this high, you'll notice that you have this ability to curve your pen. Okay. Now mine looks a hot mess at the moment, but I want to show you something, so I did that on purpose. So I'm going to go to Select, Deselect, and mine is really messed up right here. But if I go to the Direct Select tool and I click on this, it gives me handles, and it allows me to take these anchor points that I've made, and it allows me to curve it to the shape that I want it to be. Okay. So even though you draw something, if it messes up on you, you can still grab it and make it fit the shape that you want it to be. I personally like to draw with the Wacom tablets. I don't really love the pen tool as much, so it does take some getting used to, and I am not the best at the pen tool. It takes me a little bit of practice to get it in there. Okay. So what I want you guys to do, and I'm going to select this and get rid of it and practice some more. What I want you to do is to just try making these curves down here. So again, you're with the tool, you're going to click, and you're going to be able to create these curves just by manipulating the mouse. Every time you have this space that you want to, go to the next one, you can do Select and Deselect to get it over there. and click, and you will find a rhythm once you get practicing with it. There we go. Select, deselect. All right, so go ahead and try it on your own now. Try and see what happens if you make more than one point, how to curve it, how to move it. Just play around with this tool. I'm going to get rid of it. There we go. Just play around with this pen tool, practicing, just to practice. How high do you have to go to make a curve? What do you have to do? How can you go back and manipulate it after you make a curve? So you click and drag. So take some time, a lot of time, and go back in and play around with the handles and how you can adjust your anchor points and how you can adjust something that you've drawn to fit it into the space that you're playing around with. All right, when you're ready and you've gotten a chance to practice that one, I want you to go ahead and select 4 from the artboard. Okay, now this is one big connected piece. So if you look at it, you're to click here and hold down till you get to here, then let go. Then click, hold down till you get to here, let go, click, hold down till you get to here. So it takes practice to get it. Starting here, click, hold till you get to there, let go, then click, hold till you get to be right here, let go, click, hold till you get to be right there. So the higher you go up, the more of a curve it kind of creates for you. And then you can click along the path to get it to where you want to go. Now mine doesn't look good. Again, I am not the best with a pen tool, but you can go back in, thankfully, and with the direct select tool and the handles, you can adjust it to get it to look like the way it's supposed to look. It just takes a little bit more work that way. There you go. So you guys go ahead, take some time, and work on getting these worksheets right here to look exactly the way they are. Spend time on it. I'm going to make this tutorial a little bit shorter for that reason. I want you guys to practice with the pen tool and create these shapes to get them exactly the way they should look and not as much of a hot mess as what mine looks like right now. There we go. Just take your time with it. It is tricky to get the handle of. Okay, once you've gotten a chance to practice that a little bit, go ahead and switch to number 5 in the artboard and zoom in a little bit, Control+. Okay, so for this one, we're going to continue trying to do these curves. Again, these curves are tricky. They aren't something you usually get all at once. There's some instructions up here that I want you to take a minute to read. So you're going to click and drag from point 2, and this is going to give us a little bit of practice with a different type of curve. To do this one, we're going to work with holding down the Shift key as we use the pen tool. So I'm going to click the pen tool. I'm going to start at 1. Actually, before we go down to there, let's start here. So start here, click, hold up. Now, as you hold up, this is what we did last time, we drag back down to get to the second click. Mine looks horrible, so I'm going to start that over again. Okay. Click up, and there we go. Click back down. Now, if you hold the Shift key as you do this, it restrains your curves so that you can only get them to be to a 45-degree angle. Alright guys, if you've finished practicing with 4, I want you to go ahead and try practicing with 5 and also practicing with 6. 6 has some curves along as straight lines and back to curves and straight lines. So take a few minutes and go ahead and practice these. These are tricky to do. Doing curves are not easy to do. It takes a little bit of time. I am not the best at it. I don't love the pen tool like I said before, but it's good practice. So go ahead and take time and try some of these. When you've gotten through 1 through 6, save it. You are going to turn it in with this tutorial, and we're going to move on to trying the artwork in this lesson. So after you finish, go ahead and save it, and then go to lesson 6, start. All right. I'm only going to do a little bit into this lesson because I want you to have lots of time to practice the pen tool. But we are going to go ahead and try drawing around this cup right here. So to get started, open up lesson 6 start, and you can close out the end. I mean, this shows you what it's going to look like, but you can close it out. Let's go ahead and save it as file, save as, and you could call it like coffee cup with your name on it, and then save it in your student folder. All right, now that you have it saved, let's just do window, workspace, and make sure we do reset essentials, just so that we're all in the same spot again. And if you need to zoom in a little bit, you can zoom in just to make sure everything fits. Whoops. Got it all over the place. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start clicking along. We want to make sure that we don't have a fill. So let's click here and do no fill. Our stroke is still at 1 point and it's black, so that is perfectly fine. So we're going to grab the pen tool, and what I want you guys to do is to go ahead and start at A, and you're going to click yourself along all these paths. When you get to the point where you see an anchor with a handle, that means that you're to click and drag as you go so that you can get a little bit of a curve. So go ahead and try it now. Start at A and get all the way back around. I zoomed in here real quick, guys. I forgot to tell you that in the layers panel, you need to make sure you're selected on the one that says artwork before you can begin to go ahead and draw. So click on your layers over here, this symbol right here. Make sure that you're on the one that says artwork, and then go ahead and start clicking along to highlight the edge of this. All right, once you have it traced, you can go ahead and make sure you're on the direct select tool, and you can adjust anything that's shifted up too high or that needs to curve over. Remember, if it has anything that looks like this, it's a handle and it allows you to twist it and turn it. Otherwise, you can grab the path and kind of manipulate it that way. Every time you move one part, it moves something else, so you just have to make sure that you've got it lined up the way it should be in the end. All right, this is where I'm going to end this tutorial because by now you guys have had a lot of time to practice, and I'll stop here before we move on to the next section. So go ahead and make sure you answer the question sheet that goes along with today's tutorial, and then turn in the one that said practice right here. So we're just going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and click save on this one, but make sure that you turned in your pen practice. Make sure you turn in your question sheet and save this coffee cup. Next tutorial part 2 is going to be going into finishing off the coffee cup, adding some color to it, and adding the rest of the graphics that you see. All right, guys, let me know what questions you have.